Hi, welcome back. The next topic is the scope of a bean. See, in the previous example, we have seen a scope field in the XML for every bean. So here we have scope equal to prototype and the scope equal to prototype. Fine. What exactly is the scope? Scope is nothing but it is the lifetime of the bean. Okay. So what are the different possible values for the scope? Okay. So the different possible values are, I'll just try to put it in the comment here. One is prototype. The other is singleton. The other is request. The other is session. Then it is global session. Right now we'll be focusing only couple of them. One is prototype and singleton. The reason is we are exploring this feature with a console based application. Okay, and the remaining three can be used only with web based application. So we will take it up in the next lectures where we deal with the web application. Fine. See, this singleton says that whenever you give the scope as a singleton, irrespective of the number of times you request for the bean from your application, you will get only the single instance of it. Got it, right? See, earlier, whenever we want a singleton, we used to write our own code by making the constructor as private, and we used to have a factory method which was returning the instance of the object. So we used to do that. But now the Spring provides us the facility such that just make it scope equal to singleton, and it gives us the facility of the singleton instance. So even though you request for 1,000 times, it will give only one instance. Okay. So how to verify that? So let's do one thing. See, as known in this XML configuration file, we have two beans. Okay. One bean ID is E and the other bean ID is male. Fine. See, let's change the scope of the prototype to singleton and let's try to request for this bean multiple times. Okay. Fine. So I have changed here to singleton and let's go to the main application. So by the way, this is the same application which we have explored in the dependency injection section. Okay. So anyhow, I'm attaching this application as well. The minor code changes whichever are there in this application, I'm attaching so that you can download it and import it as a Maven project and you can explore it further. Right. See here, if you see, I am requesting for the male, the bean ID with male as the bean ID. Again, after some time in the application, again I am requesting. So how can we verify that it's the singleton which is being given to us? Okay, so even though I request multiple times, it has to be the same single instance, right? So how can we verify it? So what I did is I just went to this XYZ email and I created a constructor and I put a small log in the constructor just to ensure that this log need to get printed only once. Okay, so let's just try to run the application and verify that this object gets created only once, even though I'm requesting for 2 times or more, since I gave the scope as singleton in the configuration file. Okay, that is XML configuration file. Okay, so let me just try to run the application. So as we observe here, we are getting this log only once. Okay, that means the constructor is invoked only once. So fine. All right. Now let's try to change the scope of mail. So I'm going to put this in a comment so that you can try to uncomment and make use of this. And let me add one more configuration here. And I'm going to make it as prototype here. Fine. Now let's go and observe. As already known, I'm requesting for mail bean ID twice in the main application. So I'm expecting these beans. So there need to be two different beans since I'm requesting two different times. Okay. All right. So we need to get that log which was in the constructor two times. The reason is there are two bean instances getting created. The reason is the scope we have provided is prototype. Yes, as you observe here, we are getting it twice. Fine. So that is about the scope. Now the point is, how do you decide that so and so bean need to have prototype scope and so bean need to have the singleton scope? See, it depends on your requirement. Let us assume you are developing the application in which you want to store some settings and say these settings are common to all the users. So in such case, there is no necessity to create a different instance for each one. So you can go for a singleton. And let us assume there is some information which you want to store different for a different users, or whenever you are requesting, you want to have a different separate instance so that the data which is there belongs to only that specific instance. So similarly, there can be multiple instances and each instance will have its own state. So in that case, you can go for prototype.